Your views, your news, your Limerick Today. Limerick Today. Limerick Today with Joe Nash. Live95.
With romance in the air today, it's possible some could consider an office fling. But is it really such a good idea? Joining me, we have Moira Grassick, who is Chief Operating Officer at Peninsula Ireland. They're HR experts to tell us all about workplace romances and whether or not they're really worth pursuing. Good morning to you, Moira. How are you?
Morning, Joe. How are you? I'm good, thank you. You?
Not too bad. So you have some examples here, and honestly, it would certainly put you off. Anyway, I love this one. Don't mess with my man.
Yeah, so we've had, over the last 12 months, we've had a look and seen how many calls we've had to our advice line in relation to issues that relationships outside of work have caused within the workplace. So one of the ones that you mentioned there, don't mess with my man. And ultimately, it was a manager who had been performance managed in relation to the performance in work. His partner also worked with them. He was a member of the team. And when she heard what's going on, she basically came into the office and started giving out to other people, basically saying that they were causing the stress. And it was their fault that the performance issue had raised with the manager to start off with. So we have a few issues there. Obviously, number one, we have a breach of confidentiality because the manager obviously spoke to his partner in relation to the issues he was having at work. And the second thing was she obviously addressed them directly with employees. And as you can imagine, it caused great complications within the workplace.
And Moira, what about the X factor?
Yeah, so basically it was when two employees broke up. So they obviously were in a relationship. Everything was going fine. And then they separated. One of the people in the relationship then raised a complaint against the other one, saying that they were being harassed, etc. by them after they had got another partner. However, it transpired that the person who made the complaint was actually the one who was harassing the other employee. So it ultimately resulted in the employer having to do a full investigation into sexual harassment in the workplace. One of the employees ended up with a final written warning and ended up resigning from the business quite soon afterwards.
Yeah, and then there's quite a serious one here that you've called Nobody Wins.
Yeah, so ultimately, unfortunately, it was a relationship that ended up in a civil case. So two employees working together ended up in quite a difficult breakup, and both of them had taken civil action against each other. So the employer was in a really difficult predicament then, who had to keep them separated within the workplace. But as some employers do, he went on holidays, he was away from the business, and an issue arose between both of them when the employer wasn't in the workplace. And ultimately it ended up in employees being dismissed as well, and both parties raising grievance against each other, and the employer had to resolve the issue.
Right. We're chatting to Moira Grassick from Peninsula Ireland. They're HR experts. And one that interested me was age ain't nothing but a number.
Yeah, so two employees who basically were working together, and then the employer found out that they were actually married, and there was quite a significant age difference between both of them, and the employer was quite concerned about the impact that was going to have on the workplace and whether or not it would start causing gossip, etc. So they found that situation quite difficult to manage.
Right. But is that anything to do with is that the employer's business at all? An age difference in a marriage?
Yeah, not really to do with the employer. The problem was when gossip started in the workplace and it started causing a problem there, that the employer had to interfere in it at that point in time, and trying to address the other employees, discussing the fact that they were married and there was quite a significant age difference between both of them.
But doesn't gossip happen whenever you have more than one human being in a room?
Absolutely. I mean, and the whole thing is really how it's managed. And I think it's really important to remember, everybody has romances, and it's fine to have them in the workplace. But what we would advise is that there's some sort of process in place that the owner or the employer is fully aware that there is a relationship happening there to try and avoid these issues happening. So particularly when you have a manager, for example, and an employee, if they're in a relationship, there can be conflict of interest there in relation to, say, for example, salary increases, those type of things. And it also just means that the employer can be aware if there is any potential issues that may arise. So it's important that the employer has a policy in place there.
Right, but where's the line there? Like, if Johnny and Mary go out on one date, do they have to go to the employer and say, well, we were out on a date? Ooh.
Yeah, I mean, basically what we're trying to avoid here is any issues that are going to be brought into the workplace. I mean, look, you would hope that one date and that everything will work out really fine, but sometimes you find it's just that one date that hasn't worked out, and one party, for example, may not accept that that's the case. So it's really making sure that there are safety measures in place there for all employees. If they feel that a relationship isn't working out, that the employer has some process in place that the employee can follow.
But I suppose, I mean, the way the world works now, and, you know, people's interaction often happens at work, it is how lots of people meet, and they go on to have very happy, fulfilling, long-term relationships, don't they?
Absolutely. I could tell you loads of stories of people that I know that I met through the workplace and have all worked out really happily and have families and everything like that now. And I'm sure that's always the way it's going to be. The problem is that the ones that go bad are the ones that cause the biggest problems. And it's just making sure that we know what steps can be taken and how we can make sure that everybody's working in a safe environment and are happy working in it together.
But you're not anti falling in love over the laptop?
Absolutely not. No, otherwise there'll be probably 50% of the relationships would never happen. So it's important that we just get that balance right. The same as all these things is making sure that it's a correct balance, a correct process, and that everybody knows. And
presumably, you know, it obviously does depend on a degree of maturity from the employer, but also a degree of maturity from the two people in the relationship at work as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, of course it does. And I mean, you would hope that people will be sensible enough to realise that if a relationship doesn't work out, that you draw a line underneath it and that you move on. Unfortunately, sometimes people can't let that go. And then it's built into the workplace if they're both working in the same environment.
Right, I don't know whether you've inspired us or brought us down on Valentine's Day, Moira, but listen, thank you very much as always. I mean, a happy Valentine's Day to you.
You too. Thank you.
Moira Grassick there from Peninsula Ireland HR Experts. What do you make of what she was saying?